lesson, or what are we doing?
We are doing Deuteronomy 13.
We are.
And the cool thing, like I've been wrestling with huge concepts, huge things. Like how did Israel enter into the covenant? And I mean, try to picture Moses on the mountain and seeing the actual pattern in the heavens of Yah's tabernacle and then seeing that built on earth, like how amazing these things are. And poor Kurt, someone should send him steaks because he has to deal with Jenny's, oh, but what if this every once in a while. But coming across Deuteronomy 13 was a treasure. And I think it's such a good test of what, just like making sure you're kind of in the parameters that we're trying to be on and keeping Yah's ways.
How do you know you got the right God? And how do you know you've got the right worship? Like, how do you know?
Huge things. Because we want to know that we're right. We want to do his stuff. We want him to be our God and us be his people. Absolutely. And then to know we could mess that up terribly is kind of scary. So I don't know. Do you want to start reading it?
I do. Let me get to it first.
Yeah. So we want to do a few verses before and a few after.
I like the Name of God Bible. Names of God. The Nog, N-O-G for short. Again, it's in Bible Gateway. Even the concept of Bible is weird now.
Is it? Get out the scrolls.
I mean, these wouldn't, as a bound book, it wouldn't have existed back when they were going around reading it. So
for sure.
Okay, let's just do it 20. When the Lord your God, this is how it's written. I think you like the Blue Letter Bible, but I think it's pretty amazing nowadays that we have all these different versions of scriptures available.
So many options.
All right, even if English isn't your first language, if Spanish is, they have it all these versions in Spanish too. There's no reason to not read it. Some people think that they have to learn Hebrew first before they start obeying what Yahuwah said. That's not true. Just start.
Yeah,
what's your delay?
Right.
So Yahweh, your Elohim, will expand your country's borders as he promised. You will say, I'm hungry for meat. Then eat as much meat as you want. If the place Yahweh, your Elohim, Yahuwah, your Elohim, chooses to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter an animal from the herds or flocks that Yahuwah has given you. Eat as much as you want in your city. I have commanded you to do this. So should we be vegetarians?
Like you can eat all the meat you want.
Can you judge somebody for eating meat? Eat it as you would eat a gazelle or a deer. Clean and unclean people may eat it together. However, be sure that you never eat blood, because blood contains life. Never eat the life with the meat. Never eat blood. Pour it on the ground like water. If you don't eat blood, things will go well for you and your descendants. You will be doing what Yahuwah considers right. Take the holy things and the offerings you have vowed to bring and to go to the place Yahuwah will choose. Sacrifice meat and blood of your burnt offerings on the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim. The blood of your sacrifices is to be poured out beside the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, but you may eat the meat. Be sure you obey all of these instructions I'm giving you. Then things will go well for you and your descendants, because you will be doing what Yahuwah your Elohim considers good and right. That's where that word righteous comes from. Yahuwah your Elohim will destroy the nations where you were going and force them out of your way. You will take possession of their land and live there. And they've been destroyed. After they've been destroyed, be careful you aren't tempted to follow their customs. Don't even ask about their gods and say, how did these people worship their gods? We want to do what they did. Never worship your Elohim in the way they worship their gods, because everything they do for their gods is disgusting to Yahuwah. He hates it. They even burn their sons and daughters as sacrifice to their gods. Be sure to do everything I commanded you. Never add anything or take away anything. Take anything away from it. Sorry. Okay, now we're going on to Deuteronomy 13.
Yeah.
Once one of your people, claiming to be a prophet or to have prophetic dreams, may predict a miraculous sign or an amazing thing. What he predicts may even take place. But don't listen to that prophet or dreamer. If he says, let's worship and serve other gods, those gods may be gods you've never heard of. That's captioned in parentheses, so it may or may not actually be there. Yahuwah your Elohim is testing you to find out if you really love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. Worship Yahuwah your Elohim, fear him, obey his commands, listen to what he says, serve him, and be loyal to him. The prophet or dreamer must be put to death because he preached rebellion against Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of Egypt and freed you from slavery. He was trying to lead you away from following the directions of Yahuwah your Elohim, your Elohim gave to you. You must get rid of this evil. Your own brother, son, or daughter, the wife you love, or your best friend may secretly tempt you, saying, let's go worship other gods. Those gods may be gods that you and your ancestors never knew. They may be the gods of the people around you who live near or far, from one end of the land to the other. Don't be influenced by any of these people or listen to them. Have no pity on them. Don't feel sorry for them or protect them. You must put them to death. You must start to execute. Then all the other people will join you in putting them to death, stone them to death because they were trying to lead you away from Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of slavery in Egypt. All Israel will hear about it and be afraid. Then no one among you will ever do such a wicked thing again. You may hear that the residents in one of the cities which Yahuwah your Elohim has given you to live, have been led away from the Lord your God by worthless people. You may hear that these people have been saying, let's worship other gods. Those gods may be gods you've never heard of. Again, in captioned. Then make a thorough investigation. If it is true, you can prove that this disgusting thing has been done among you, you must kill the residents of that city with sword and destroy the city and everyone in it, including the animals, because they are claimed by God. Gather their goods into the middle of the city square, then burn their city and all their goods as a burnt offering to Yahuwah your Elohim. It must remain a mound of ruins and never be rebuilt. Don't ever take any of the things claimed for destruction. Then Yahuwah will stop being angry and will show you mercy. In his mercy, he will make your population increase as he swore to your ancestors. Yahuwah, your Elohim, will do this if you listen to him. Obey all the commands that I'm giving you today, and do what Yahuwah, your Elohim, considers right. You want me to go more?
Just a couple more, yeah.
Deuteronomy 14. You are the children of Yahuwah your Elohim. So when someone dies, don't mourn by cutting yourselves or shaving bald spots on your head. You are people who are holy to Yahuwah your Elohim. Out of all the people who live on earth, Yahuwah has chosen you to be his own special possession. And you have a different word there.
Yeah, I have, you'll be a treasured people. But to be his treasured people is the goal. I mean, it's what an awesome promise that we could be his treasured people. And my question has been lately, like, so where are they? Where's those treasured people? Who is this working out for? Like, where's the benefits? And I don't mean to be like, okay, I'm I'm your treasured people now. Dang it, where's my stuff or anything like that? But who is this working for? Where are the marriages that work? Where's the families that work? Like, where's the community? Because his promises are so true. We should see this in action. It still pertains to today. So that's kind of been my like, but what about this?
So what do you think about that then? So is it Deuteronomy 30? I want to jump over there because there's a promise.
So I had to review Deuteronomy yesterday,
Mhm.
and then I ended up reading in Isaiah for like the first 40 some chapters just to be reassured. And because what I was looking for originally was, what do I write on my doorposts? Like, I don't have that written yet. And that's one of his commands, write it on your doorposts. And let alone what is a doorpost today, I could write it inside, like on the door jamb where I don't really see it, or is it supposed to be like on the front? Like, so I do see it. I'm not really sure. So I was trying to work that out. And looking at the promises in Deuteronomy are amazing because Yah identifies himself as this God who brought you out of Egypt again and again and again. And it's really cool to come across those.
Okay. So I want to read Deuteronomy 30 now. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Because this is kind of relating to what you're saying.
Before you get to that, do you want to talk more about 13 or we're going to come back to that?
I think they're all kind of, it's all going to work its way together.
Perfect.
So we just read the things that we're supposed to not do.
Yeah.
As well as do. And we're supposed to also not add to that, right? So that's
huge right on its own. So I don't want to miss that part.
That should stand on its own. Like we should read that. That's our benchmark. And every time we have a question of, am I doing something wrong? As far as like pursuing some sort of study, does it go against what Deuteronomy 13 says? And if it does, and it looks like, and maybe bringing you back towards something that's less important than the God that brought you out of Egypt, out of slavery, right, then you got to stop. You got to stop immediately. Like he says, to kill the person doing that.
Right? That's huge. And plus, like, I'm so glad you mentioned the plumb line because that Deuteronomy 13 is, like you said, that plumb line. I get to measure up against this and see if I'm straying from that. Because how many times did Israel think they were doing what was right? And it turns out, like, why did you ever think that was right? Like, they were so far off track. They have the golden calf, like, so fast, just being in covenant, and then they totally mess up, but they think they're doing what's right. And it's so easy to get entrapped.
The benchmark is to do what Yahuwah says and to listen to him only. Like, I feel like if he says in the Psalms that he will forgive us as if it never happened, then we need to forgive ourselves and erase our mind as if it never happened. Like you were never a part of that. And it's hard because you see the lights right now. This is the perfect time of year to talk about this. Like we are in the midst in a foreign nation with people doing exactly what he said not to do. Yeah. Right? Don't worship me the way
in that way, right?
And then so listen, this is what he says in Deuteronomy 30. This is 17 chapters later. And you can read up to here, and he's given us a whole list of do's and don'ts. All these blessings and curses I have spoken about will happen to you. Take them to heart. I mean, this comes into what you're asking. Like, where's the abundance of blessing pouring out on us? Where's the, like, are we not getting it right? Are we still mixing and blending? Like, as a people?
Like, am I fooling myself to think I am on his path, or I think I'm doing it, but am I actually following what he says is right? So yeah, it's.
All I have spoken about will happen to you. Take them to heart when you are among all the nations where Yahuwah, your Elohim, will scatter you, and that's our heritage. Everybody is scattered all over the world, and then people wake up. And this is also written in the second book of Esdras. Like you'll wake up and you'll in a city, and you look around and say, where is everybody? And that's literally happened, man. You're
Yeah.
going to be on this walk alone, man. I'm sorry. And it's going to be hard to find people that aren't going to try to mix and blend because they just think they can't let go of the past. They have to go to it all the time. Let it go. Uh, if you and your children return to Yahuwah your Elohim and obey him with all your heart and with all your soul, doing everything I command you today, he will restore your fortunes. Have your fortunes been restored, or are you still walking around broke? Broke. If you are, there's he's a liar,
Right.
or we're not Israel yet. We're not. We
Oh.
haven't embraced fully. So there's something, and I don't say you as in I mean we collectively.
Yeah. Just as his people, like, we haven't seen this happen yet, and we want it to happen, and so we're just, it's a process, I get that, but it's still
But
like, okay, but when does this happen already?
this is Moshe giving a prophecy from our ancestors, and you think about how bad we've been and how we've just gravitated towards stuff we're not supposed to. Like, it's part of who Israel is. It's just part of being a people on planet Earth. But then he says, he will restore your fortunes. He will have mercy on you. That's that word mercy. And gather you from all the nations of the world where Yahuwah, your Elohim, will scatter you. Well, these people just came out of Egypt. They're standing before Moshe, and he's saying that he's going to scatter you. He's telling them what's going to happen. Like, he's able to see from the beginning all the way to the end. He knows how it's all going to play out. Like, good for you, Moshe. You know it, but and bring you back from there. Okay, so even if you are scattered to the most distant country in the world, Yahuwah your Elohim will gather you and bring you back from there. Yahuwah your Elohim will bring you to the land your ancestors owned. You will take possession of it, and Yahuwah will make you more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors were. Yahuwah your Elohim will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants. You will love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, and you will live. Then Yahuwah your Elohim will put all these curses on your enemies, those who hate you and persecute you. You will again obey Yahuwah and follow his commands that I'm giving you today. Yahuwah your Elohim will give you many blessings in everything you do. You will have many children. Your animals will have many offspring. Your soil will produce many crops. Yahuwah will again delight in making you as prosperous as he made your ancestors. He will do this if you obey Yahuwah your Elohim, and follow his commands and laws that are written in this book of teachings, and return to Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. This command I am giving you today isn't too hard for you or beyond your reach. It's not in heaven. You don't have to go ask who will go to heaven to give us this command for us that we can hear it and obey it. This command isn't on the other side of the sea. You don't have to ask who will cross the sea to get it for us so that we can hear it and obey it. No, these words are very near you. They are in your mouth and in your heart so that you will obey them. I got to keep going. Today I offer you life and prosperity, or death and destruction. This is what I am commanding you today. Love Yahuwah your Elohim, follow his directions, and obey his commands, laws, and rules. Then you will live. Your population will increase, and Yahuwah your Elohim will bless you in the land that you are about to enter and take possession of. But your hearts might turn away, and you might not listen, and you might be tempted to bow down to other gods and worship them. If you do, I tell you today that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live for a long time in the land that you are going to take the possession of when you cross the Jordan River. I call on heaven and earth as witness today. I have offered you life or death, blessings or curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants will live. Love Yahuwah your Elohim, obey him, and be loyal to him. This will be your way of life, and it will mean a long life for you in the land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, if you prefer the Hebrew pronunciation. I find this whole promise of a future thing, like you're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up, but he's going to put it in your heart.
He knew that. Yeah, he knew that.
You're going to come back, but there's benefits when you start to wake up to just doing what he said. Well, then how do you do what he said? Where do you go to get it? It's
in that book of instructions. Right there. It's like right there in your face. How can we miss that? Like, his instructions are simple and he made it easy. And all of a sudden I'm awake to, oh my gosh, I need to do these instructions. Because that test back in Deuteronomy 13, the purpose of that was, do you really love him? That's the test. And here he says, I lost the verse. But again, he mentioned that you love him. Like, you're doing this because you love him. You're proving yourself. You're proving to yourself also, I'm doing these instructions because I love him. And then he brings you these little tests, not to try to trip you up or trick you, but do you really love him? That is huge, I think.
I mean, if you have some time to kill, go read Deuteronomy 13 to 30. Like, I'm looking at Deuteronomy 29. Yeah, I started to.
Don't miss out. Read the whole thing.
Right, but
I had to review it yesterday.
It says there's a caption here. It says above 29, Israel's past, present, and future. And again, if you're alive on planet Earth right now, you're a descendant of Israel. There's no way around it, man. You just are. Like, Abraham was promised his descendants to be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Can you count those? Can you? So that's a lot. It's a lot. There's also another scripture where he makes reference to it. Although your descendants are, or you have become. And then there was
what you just read in 30 was that you're going to even be more prosperous than them. So they had already come out of Egypt. A lot of people. We think it's millions of people. I don't know. It was like, hey, look, we've seen the promises happen. We're out of Egypt. We're out of that slavery. We're in covenant. And then they enter the promised land. And again, they're like, okay, we're enough people, right? Like, we've seen the promises happen.
Yeah, somebody's probably going to correct me on this, but it's like 600,000 men. It says not including women and children and the sojourners, right? So if you weren't Israel going into Egypt, but you came out with them, like, you saw everything that this God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob just did. And you're like, I want to be on the winning team.
Absolutely. You don't want to miss out. And that his promise is still that you can enter into that. Anybody can be grafted in. Like, these promises are here on the page. You can keep Sabbath. You can rest on his day. You can follow his instructions and be his people, that treasured people that he told us back in Deuteronomy, I guess it was 14, but you can be his treasure. He's hoping for a people. He's wanting a people for himself. He says again and again, that's his inheritance. Like, the whole goal is to be his treasured people. And we can if we just do it.
Right, here's a mindset to have when you read this, right? I'm just going to read from 29. These are the terms of the promise that Yahuwah commanded Moshe to give to the Israelites in Moab. This was in addition to the promise Yahuwah gave them at Mount Horeb. Moses summoned all the people of Israel and said to them, so this is the mindset. I'm Israel. If you're watching this video, you should just, I'm Israel. And this is being said to me. You've seen with your own eyes everything that Yahuwah did in Egypt to Pharaoh. Have we seen that? Have enough movies been made with the attempt to try to capture that on film? Like, there are so many movies about it. There's the Ten Commandments is a famous movie. I think they kind of pale in comparison to what actually happened, but
Oh, for sure.
It's close. It's a visual, if you need it. You also saw, okay, to all his officials, to his whole country. You also saw those terrible plagues, those miraculous signs, and those spectacular, amazing things. But to this day, Yahuwah hasn't given you a mind that understands, eyes that see, or ears that hear. For 40 years I led you through the desert. During that time, your clothes and shoes never wore out. You ate no bread and drank no wine or liquor. I did this so that you would know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. And people say, this is the book of Moshe. Moshe's a tool. It's the book of Yahuwah, man.
Yeah, it is.
So whenever you read in the scripture, tell Israel, it's Yahuwah talking directly to you. He's not talking to people way back then, way back when. He's talking to us.
So I found what I was trying to talk about earlier. It's in, well, my version, it's verse 15 of 30. See, I have placed before you today the life and the good and the death and the evil, that which I command you today, to love Yahweh your God, to walk in his ways, to observe his commandments, his decrees, and his ordinances. Then you will live and you'll multiply. And Yahweh your God will bless you in the land to which you come to possess it. So it's all about showing that I love him. And I think that's so cool.
So maybe if we recognize that, and then we're supposed to have the touch point of Deuteronomy 13. Well, okay, what do you say to do? Oh, yeah, the God who brought us out of Egypt, the God who brought my ancestors out of Egypt. He's saying in this book, in any language you want, to go ahead and here it is. Here's the keys to the kingdom. You want the keys to the kingdom? Let's say the kingdom's a shiny new red Ferrari. You want the keys to it? You want to drive it? Here's what you do.
Yeah. I'm so glad he gives us a focus. Like there's that zero in, like dot on the bullseye. He gives us that focus that we can know him, that we can be his people, that we can be treasured people. And then we can work that out. And yeah, it's a process to get better at that, or to zero in on what really his truths are. But he's equipping his people to offer his words right here on the page. And the the option or open opportunity is to join into that, to believe his words and join in.
And think about this, like we have memories and we have words written to read, and we have people sharing these stories year in and year out, but we didn't witness it with our own eyes. So maybe there's a bit of a, okay, I kind of understand because you didn't see, but these people saw,
Yeah.
and 40 days later,
Right?
they're riding on a golden calf. This is Yahuwah, our God. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, right.
I mean, but like if you're awake now, if he woke you up, part of the treasure, man. You're part of the treasure. Think about that.
So live like it. That's the thing. Live like you're his treasure.
It's really good stuff, man. And I get it. It may be hard this time of year. You're going to get invited. Just don't go. Because what's more important? Your son? I want to read that list in Deuteronomy. Do you have it open already?
No, I'm back in 30 now.
We'll go back to 13 because there's people you say that are going to tempt you.
Right.
And they're people you love, man. Don't let them. Your own brother, son, or daughter, the wife you love, or your best friend may secretly tempt you, saying, let's go worship other gods. It doesn't mean that to me. It's what's in my heart that God cares about. No, it's not. No, it's not. Don't be influenced by any of these people to listen to them. Have no pity on them. It's not me. This isn't me. This isn't my words. This isn't my feelings. This is him. Talking to us. Talking to us. Think about all the generations of Israel that have come and gone, scattered to the four corners of the earth, and we have just read these words. Like, these words have always been here. And I've just read them and say, I don't care. He's not talking to me. He's talking to somebody else.
That's way for them, way back when.
right? It has nothing to do with me. I have mercy. Well, this is what he says. He's got mercy on you.
when
You're
you're
gonna
doing
wake.
his stuff.
I,
That's I think that's the part I missed. And then wrestling it out, like trying to figure out what does he mean? Because I want to know what he's saying by his own words. Like what does he mean by that? Not by what do I think about that? And then to wrestle that out with him and to take it to him, like, okay, what does this mean for me? Because if I don't like these instructions, aren't I supposed to take it to him and be like, come on, what do you mean here?
right. So, I mean, that's a really good point. Like, people may watch this video and say, well, what do you think, you're better than us? No, it's just his words, man. I'm just reading to you what he says.
Yeah,
And so
I
if you
didn't
have a
decide
problem with
this.
it, right, if you have a problem with it, which if you're Israel, you shouldn't. But if you are, you take it to him. Complain to him. See how that goes for you. Go to the throne room in your prayer time. Get on your hands and knees and protest to the creator of the universe. See how that goes. I mean, we have centuries of being scattered to the four corners of the earth. That's where we are right now. And people are waking up and they're alone and they're saying, I don't like this alone stuff. Well, get over it and get on it. Get on it. Get on it. Right? Because there's a promise of making us more. There's going to be more of you.
Yeah, even more than there was. Like, what? That's a huge promise.
Yeah. So it's roughly like 3 million people that came out of Egypt. That's the estimate you get. 600,000 men, not including women, children, and sojourners. So 3 million people, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Seriously.
You saw by day and by night him working all these miracles and stuff. We didn't
Yeah,
see that.
right there. Right in your midst. And the other nations knew he was in their midst. It's just an incredible story.
Like, how many times did people bow down to their wooden idols and nothing happens? Let me just pray to this thing, and then nothing happens. Or maybe there's a Nephilim, disembodied spirit of a giant sitting behind that thing, just trying to give you what you're asking for, as if it's a genie in a bottle.
Mm.
I don't know, man. This stuff is fascinating to me, but at the end of the day, there's people that are going to even watch this video and complain.
Well, take it to ya.
And good luck with that. Complain to him.
Yeah.
That didn't go
I'm
well
not
for
saying I know it all, and I'm still learning. That's the thing. Is bit by bit and piece by piece, I'm trying to figure it out. To be his people, though, is such a promise. To be his treasured people, I think it's worth that wrestling with the word.
They have wonderful songs this time of year. They have wonderful lights.
Oh,
Everybody's in a
stop.
spirit of giving.
Oh my gosh.
It's the wrong God, dude. It's the wrong God.
Yeah.
It's not him. It can't be him. Well, how do I know? He's the God that brought us out of Egypt, man. That's our God.
That's who he says he is. I can't argue with that. That's who he says he is.